My name is Helen Carter. I am 46 years old and I have worked as a nurse all my life in a small clinic in Ohio. I live in my home, which I inherited from my parents. I never got married. Not because I didn't have a chance, it's just that I always had other priorities. I thought I had to be a support for my family, especially for my younger sister, Lily. We are 9 years apart. When my mom and dad died in a car accident, Lily was only 11. She remembers almost nothing about them because she pushed the pain away. But I remember everything. I dropped out of college and took over her care. I became her mother, sister, and nanny at the same time. I sacrificed my own life for her, and I have never regretted it, until recently. 5 years ago, when Lily told me she wanted to go to university in Cleveland, I didn't hesitate. I sold my mother's ring and took out a loan to pay for her education. She came to me, lived in my house for free. I washed her clothes, cooked soup, and got up for work at 5 in the morning to give her time to sleep. At first, everything went well. She studied, helped me around the house. We watched old movies together on weekends, just like we used to. She laughed, called me her guardian angel, and then he appeared. His name was Nathan. 32 years old, solid, charming, with a deep voice and always wearing an expensive watch. She brought him over one evening saying, "It's just a friend from the course." But I didn't like something about him from the first second, the way he looked at me, the way he looked at my house, as if he had already calculated how much it cost. And then he looked at me, condescendingly, coldly. "Do you live here alone?" he asked. "Aren't you bored?" I forced a smile, but something inside me froze. After that evening, Lily changed. She started coming home late, sometimes not at all. I asked her why, and she didn't say anything. Her eyes became distant. I tried to understand. But I didn't know that this was only the beginning of the collapse of everything I had built over the years. Nathan started appearing often, too often. He didn't spend the night at our place, but he would sit in our living room until 1 a.m. I'd come in from the kitchen with tea, and he'd be sprawled out on the couch with his feet on my coffee table, watching my TV, and not even saying thank you. Lily didn't blush anymore when I looked at this in amazement. She just shrugged her shoulders. "Relax, he's just tired." I tried to stay out of it. My policy has always been not to push, but one night changed everything. It was about 2 in the morning. I was already asleep when I heard someone talking quietly in the hallway. I went out and found Lily in the kitchen in the dark. She was standing next to my wallet. She took money from it. I froze. She turned around, and when she saw me, she wasn't afraid. She just looked at me dismissively and said, "I thought you were already asleep. I have to go to my books." "Lily, why didn't you ask?" "Because you're always in control anyway. You want everything to be about you. I'm tired of it." I didn't know what to say. For the first time, she spoke to me like a stranger, like a debtor who hates her creditor. The next morning, I found my old notebook, the one where I used to write down all the expenses for Lily. Clothes, food, health insurance, even her driving fees. I never thought to show it to her. But now, looking through page after page, I felt angry. Not because of the money, but because of the neglect. A few days later, Nathan stayed with us overnight. Without warning. I got up at 5 and found him in the kitchen, naked to the waist with my mug in his hand. "Morning, Helen," he said with a smile, as if he were the boss. "Can't you at least tell me when you're going to spend the night?" I said coldly. "I'm almost family now, aren't I?" I was shaking after his words, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to stir up a conflict. Lily went out with him that night. She didn't say where she was going. She came back the next morning. And for the first time in my life, she didn't apologize. I noticed that my mom's jewelry was missing. My first suspicion was terrible, but it seemed plausible. I started counting. Not money, moments. Every time I saw Nathan touch her, how she laughed as if I had never been close to her. I counted how many times she walked past me without looking me in the eye, how many times she said, "I'm not a child, Helen. Stop controlling me." And every time I was physically hurt. One evening, I found a box from a pawn shop on the kitchen floor. Inside was a check. It was made out to Lily Carter. The exchange, a gold bracelet, a diamond pendant, and a ring. My mom's. I burst into tears. Not quietly, but for real. That jewelry was her last gift to us. Lily didn't even warn me. She just got rid of them. I left the box on the table. She saw it the next day. "What's it supposed to mean?" she said. "You tell me." I had the right. They're partly mine. Partly? Lily, you were 11 when she died. I was saving them for you. And you? You were keeping them for yourself. You always pretended to do everything for me, but you really just wanted me to be indebted to you for the rest of my life. These words hit me harder than any slap. I could barely breathe. Nathan showed up the same evening, but this time he came with an offer. "Helen, I understand that you are worried, but maybe it's time for Lily to have her own space. She and I thought maybe she could stay with me for a while. At your place?" "Yes. I have an opportunity to rent a 2-story duplex. There is a room for her and for us." For us. I realized he was playing a trick on me. First he made promises, then emotional isolation, and now he was pushing me out. I started asking questions. It turned out that Nathan was not a student. He doesn't have a diploma at all. He works in a real estate agency as an intermediary. His name did not appear in any of Lily's student registers. I called the university. She hadn't been there for over a month. She was lying. I didn't sleep that night. I was looking through old albums. There we are, still small. I am holding her in my arms. Her knee is bandaged. She is crying, and I am hugging her. She trusted me more than anyone. What went wrong? The next morning, I came to the university in person. The student department confirmed it to me. Lily was no longer an active student. She hadn't taken her final tests, hadn't shown up for class, and her English teacher had even written her an email that hadn't been answered. I stood in the hall holding this information like a grenade that I didn't know where to throw. I got home earlier than Lily expected. She was sitting in the kitchen, on Nathan's lap. They were laughing. Until they saw me. "We have to talk," I said. Lily rolled her eyes. "Maybe later. We're busy." "No, now." I sat down across from him. I looked him in the eye. "I went to your university. You don't study anymore. You lied to me." She turned away nervously. Nathan intervened. "Helen, you're overreacting. She's a grown woman. She has the right to make her own choices." "I'm not talking to you," I replied. "Lily, why?" "Because I'm tired of living your life," she almost shouted. "I didn't want to study. I wanted to be free. You never asked me what I wanted. You just paid for everything and expected gratitude. I paid because I loved you, because I wanted to give you a chance, and you chose a lie and him." Nathan smiled, arrogant. "If it's easier for you to pass the buck, go ahead, but Lily and I have plans. She's going to work with me. Doing what? Taking deposits from people for apartments you don't even have the right to rent? I talk to people. You're a crook. You have a reputation. And that's an understatement." He changed instantly in his face. "You're in my house, Nathan, but don't forget I can still call the police." Lily was silent. For the first time, she didn't take his side. She just sat there looking at the floor. I went upstairs. I didn't want to see anything else, but something changed inside me. The pain gave way to determination. I would no longer be a silent shadow in my own life. The next day, I checked my finances. I didn't have as much money left as I thought. Some of it had been transferred from my account to Lily's card, without my authorization. I checked my phone and found an internet banking app open to her profile. She knew my password. She stole over $4,200 from my account. And then I realized this story is not about a mistake. This is a betrayal. I did not call the police. Not yet. But I made copies of all the bank transactions and gave them to a lawyer I know from the clinic where I work. He advised me not to go to court yet, but to try to resolve the issue through conversation first. I knew that talking would not help. I went ahead and did it. Through a former patient who works in the county office, I got copies of the complaints against Nathan Wallace. 5 women. One of them was an elderly widow whom he convinced to invest in real estate resale and then disappeared. Another is a young mother whom he promised to move to a new dream home, but after signing the contract, she lost both her money and her home. I found the number of one of them, Donna Keats. She agreed to meet with me. Sitting across from me in a cheap cafe, she held a plastic folder with documents in her hands like a weapon. He made me believe that I was important. He said that for the first time he wanted something real. I trusted him. I invested $15,000. When I called a week later, his phone was disconnected. I almost lost my house. Donna looked at me with a pain in her eyes that I knew all too well. If your sister hasn't lost everything yet, you have to do something. And you have to do it fast. I returned home in the evening. They were both in Lily's room. The door was open. I heard words that will stay with me forever. She thinks she's in control. But a little more and the house will be ours. Just convince her to sign the documents. Tell her it's for taxes. She's old, she won't understand. I was paralyzed. I didn't know how long I stood there. Then I went to my room. I wasn't crying anymore. I just breathed deeply, steadily, like nurses do before a complicated procedure. The next day I packed Lily's suitcase. Her laptop, charger, makeup, everything. I put it in the hallway. When she woke up, I was waiting in the kitchen. Your things are by the door. You don't live here anymore. What? You betrayed me. I won't let my life be ruined again. Get your things. Let Nathan take care of you now. You have no right. I have every right. This is my home. And if you don't leave now, I'm going to call the police. And I'll tell them every single fact, starting with the theft. She left. Without a word. No tears. Nathan didn't show up. Perhaps he already knew the game was over. After the door closed behind Lily, the silence in the house became unbearable. I walked through the rooms, their scent still in the air. Cheap men's perfume, the smell of her shampoo, the echo of music from the headphones she always left lying around. I sat in the kitchen, flipping through old postcards she used to write me from summer camps. "Thank you for being the best sister in the world," she wrote to me, drawing hearts with a red marker. I clutched the card to my chest and cried. Not out of anger. I cried out of pity. Because I had lost more than just my sister. I had lost the version of her that I believed I knew. The days passed slowly. I went to work, came back, and prayed that she would at least write. But nothing. I was preparing to live without her, when suddenly one evening the police arrived in the yard. "Are you Helen Carter?" the officer asked. "Can you come with us to the station? We have a complaint about psychological pressure and threats from you." I shuddered. "From whom?" "Miss Lily Carter." I was taken for interrogation. There I found out that Lily had filed a complaint alleging that I had threatened her and kicked her out of her home, creating a life-threatening situation. She said that I was emotionally unstable, that I was obsessed with control and could be dangerous. I looked at the report in disbelief. All these were her words. I was protecting her, and she was now putting me in the position of a criminal. "We are not pressing formal charges," the officer said, "but if she comes back again, the situation could change." I returned home in a state of shock. An hour after I got home, I got a call from Donna Keats. He was active again, Nathan. He tried to withdraw money from my account through an old credit application, and Lily was with him. I saw her. It destroyed me completely. She not only didn't leave him, she was helping him. I didn't know what was worse, the loss or the realization that she had chosen this darkness voluntarily. I no longer had any illusions, but I knew he wouldn't stop. If he couldn't deceive me, he would find another victim, and Lily would follow him until they fell together. I decided to act. The next day, I went to see Donna again, this time not as a woman who had been betrayed, but as an ally. We sat down in the kitchen of her modest apartment, and I said, "I want to stop him, not for myself, for all of us." Donna nodded silently and handed me an old folder. Inside were statements, emails, even photocopies of the fake contracts Nathan had used before. "I didn't have the strength to give it all to anyone," she admitted, "but if you're ready to fight, take it." I gathered the materials and handed everything over to a lawyer I knew, Jeremy, with whom I worked at the clinic on cases of patients who had suffered from domestic violence. He agreed to help. "It will take a long time," he said, "but we can file a fraud report and warn others. And if Lily is an accomplice with him, she could suffer as well. I don't want to destroy her. I just want her to wake up." We started collecting signatures from other women who had been abused by Nathan. Some were afraid, some were ashamed, but later we received 6 official statements. I put every free hour after work into this case. A week later, Nathan contacted me himself. He wrote a short message. "You are playing dangerous games. You shouldn't. Lily is an adult. Leave her alone." Nothing scared me more than the fact that he was still talking to her on my behalf. He was even taking away my right to be her sister. I answered briefly, "The next conversation will be through a lawyer." But the worst was yet to come. Late in the evening, someone rang the doorbell. I opened the door and saw Lily, tired, crying, wearing a thin jacket and no suitcase. "You were right," she said quietly. He's gone, with all our money, and he left me at the hotel without a cent." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hug her. Part of me wanted to kick her out again. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she added. "I just don't know where else to go." I silently stepped back, letting her into the house. Lily was sleeping on the couch in the guest room. I didn't touch her, didn't ask her anything. I just left a blanket and an old cup of chamomile tea and went to my room. That night was the hardest. I lay in the dark and thought, what now? The next morning she was sitting in the kitchen just like before, barefoot with a cup of coffee, wearing my sweater. I made an omelet for two of us, automatically, like before. She didn't speak, and neither did I. She was the first to break the silence. "I knew who he was," she said quietly. "Not right away, but I realized I just didn't want to believe it. And I stayed with him anyway." "Yes, I did, because I thought he was the only one who saw me as more than just the girl you raised. I went back to her. I saw everything in you, potential, strength, kindness. But you trampled on it. And not just me, yourself." She started to cry, and she didn't hold back this time. "I don't know who I am without him. I don't know how to live without that adrenaline, the lies, the pretense that I'm worth something. He knew how to convince me that the world owed me something." "The world doesn't owe you anything, Lily, and neither do I. But if you want to start over, not as my sister, not as his victim, but as yourself, I won't close the door." She looked at me, not knowing how to answer. In the evening, we signed a statement to the police together. I officially filed a case against Nathan. Lily did too, now as a victim. Her testimony added weight to the case. A few days later, the police got on his trail. He was seen in a neighboring state, trying to rent a car under a false name. I didn't feel happy. It was only relief. For the first time in months, I had a peaceful night. The next morning, Lily left a note on the kitchen table. "I appreciate you letting me in, but I have to go. I need to see who I am without you, without him. If I am ever worthy again, I will come back. Otherwise, goodbye." I sat with that note for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just whispered, "Be free, Lily, and be honest, at least for now." A week after Lily left, I received a summons to appear in court, a preliminary hearing in Nathan's case. I was called as a witness and a victim. Donna, two other women from our initiative group, and Jeremy's lawyer were also testifying. Lily was also supposed to testify, but she wrote to me that she wanted to do it anonymously. She was embarrassed to be in the room next to me. The hearing took place in the district court in Columbus. I arrived early. I sat in the hallway, clutching a notebook with notes in my hands, like in my old job before a complicated surgery. When Nathan entered the building, escorted by police, I didn't recognize him at first. He had lost weight and gained some hair, but his eyes were the same. The same eyes that had once looked at my house as if it were easy prey. He looked at me and smiled, uncertainly, almost automatically, like a person who is used to charming even when he can no longer impress anyone. I did not look away. This time, I was not the one who felt ashamed. The prosecutor confidently stated the facts. Fake transactions, fake accounts, transfers to third-party cards, the stories of women whom he destroyed financially, morally, and psychologically. The story of Lily, the youngest, most trusting of all. Nathan was silent almost all the time. Only once did he ask to speak. "I'm not a criminal," he said. "I was just trying to survive. The world is a cruel place. I didn't threaten anyone. All these women, they wanted to believe." I thought at the time how easy it is to shift responsibility to those who believe. But faith is not a weakness. Faith is a choice, and to abuse it is not survival, it is meanness. The judge scheduled the next hearing in 3 weeks. He faces up to 5 years in prison. For now, he remains under supervision and is not allowed to leave the state. When I returned home, I found another letter from Lily in my mailbox. It was handwritten, neatly, with the same handwriting I had seen on her childhood postcards. Helen, I finally got a job. A small cafe by the lake. I wash dishes and serve coffee. But I pay for the room myself. Go to interviews myself. Choose who to talk to. I'm starting to live. Thank you for not locking the door once. And forgive me if you can. I clutched the letter to my chest. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Without pain, without resentment. The trial lasted 3 days. I sat in the second row, next to Donna. We held hands when the verdict was announced. Nathan Wallace was found guilty of 4 counts of fraud and 2 counts of illegal use of personal data. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison with the right to review after 2. I did not feel triumphant, but something in me calmed down, not because he was sent to prison, but because I had done everything I could for myself, for others, for her. I didn't go home that night. I stayed in the city for another day. I went to a park I hadn't been to in years. There, by the lake, there was a bench where Lily and I used to eat ice cream after her next visit to the doctor. I remember what she said then. "When I grow up, I'm going to buy you a house by the sea, and we will drink lemonade there." I smiled. The sea never came, but there was lemonade, and a little bit of the world in me. At home, I returned to my usual pace. Mornings with coffee, work at the clinic, books before bed. But something changed. I started writing letters every Sunday. I didn't send them anywhere. I just wrote to Lily, about my week, about how the roses bloomed, about how I learned how to change the filter in the boiler myself. A month later, I received an envelope with the logo of a small bookstore in another state. Inside was a postcard, a picture of a bright coffee shop and a short signature. I learned how to make a latte, and I didn't even spill any milk. Thank you for believing in me before I did. I put the card on the shelf next to my parents' photo. I looked at it and realized for the first time, we all have the right to fall. But what really matters is not how many times we have been betrayed. It's whether we are able to not betray ourselves. Now I knew I had not lost. I had done everything I could, and even more. And yes, I was called a loser. But if it gave me a chance to choose again, I would have paid for her education again. I let her in again. I would give her love again, because love is not something that is returned. It is something that is given, even if there is only silence in return.